from the IDA who is supposed to be here. Jane Kelly and Tim Munn will not be here today. So we have the 5 IDA board members. Kara's on board. Kent Kirsch from the Center for Regional Growth is here, and Keith Sandor. Hey, Keith, now I see your face.
There.
Keith is here again from Nexus Renewables. Alrighty, let's get started if we could. I'm going to do a roll call to confirm who's present. Dave Demore.
Here.
Joe Semyon.
Here.
Todd Rulison. Jane Kelly. Mike Fitzgerald.
Here.
Joe Gillis.
Here.
Tim Munn. Okay. Okay. Yes, you can. The minutes from the July 14th meeting were prepared and sent out to everyone. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any concerns or comments?
Nope.
Someone then make a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Joe Semyon, a second.
Dave?
Dave Demore. Any further discussion? Take a roll call vote. Dave Demore.
Yes.
Joe Semyon.
Aye.
Todd Rulison.
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Okay. Budget report was distributed to you with the agenda. On the revenue side of the budget, we received a reimbursement from Vireo in the amount of $10,601 and some investment earnings as shown on that report. On the expenditure side, we had salaries and taxes, which are all the routines. And then under the Tryon Technology Park, we had the payment for Vireo to balance off the revenue. That was the expenditure side, the same amount. And we had an interim payment on the mowing contract that we have to mow, cut grass at Tryon. And then there was another payment as part of your contract with Emory Designs for ongoing work with updating the IDA website. So that was it for the month. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the budget report?
No, I've got a quick question though about the mowing. I drove by Tryon. The left side where the sign is looks great. Are they supposed to be mowing the right side of the entranceway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That did not look very good, unfortunately.
That has been communicated to Glenn, and hopefully that will be addressed.
Okay. No, I just drive by and see what it looks like. Thank you.
Yep. If there's no other questions or comments, would someone make a motion to accept the budget report?
So
Make a motion.
Todd Rulison, second.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mike. Take a roll call vote on accepting the budget report. Dave Demore.
Aye.
Joe Semyon.
Aye.
Todd Rulison.
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Very good. Moving on to committee reports. Audit Committee, monthly bank reconciliation reports. Joe Semyon. Did you have a
Yes,
chance?
I did. I reviewed the 20 pages that was sent over to me by Carol, and everything looks in order.
Very good.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Moving on to other reports. Kent, do you have anything to offer regarding the Center for Regional Growth?
There you go.
Sorry, Jim. I had to unmute.
Okay.
Just a couple of comments. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Everybody has a report, I assume, so you can read the report for more detail. I just wanted to say, mainly, you probably heard this the last meeting, but we've spent a lot more time than usual supporting local businesses, given the pandemic and all the complications that businesses are facing with that. Did a lot of work over the last couple of months working with the PPP program to help people get that grant money. So most of what I'm going to mention here falls into the category of supporting local businesses, but as you can read in the report, there's still a fair amount of new business development activity, most of which I don't know a lot of the details about and probably couldn't share it even if I did. But a couple of things I just wanted to highlight. First of all, on the microenterprise grant program, had another really good season with that. We used up all the $200,000 that we were allocated by the state, and are going out to the businesses, the 8 businesses listed here. These are grants, so they're money that's not required to be repaid as long as they generate the jobs they've committed to. And each one of these, they range usually from $20,000 to $25,000 a piece. The maximum anybody can get is $35,000. Skipping down to community assistance, we had a pretty big event yesterday up in Northville. We had the official grand opening for the new local Five and Dine restaurant up there. That was a pretty big project. A lot of both grant and loan money involved there. So we had the grand opening yesterday. We had Jim Tedesco, Bob Smolin, and Elaine Stefanik there to help commemorate that grand opening. So it was a pretty big milestone with that project. So we were happy to have that happen. And then Ron has been working on getting a new source of working capital for businesses. So he's got a new bank lined up a couple of new banks lined up to help provide more funding resources for local businesses. So that's something we were concerned about it just because some of the loan funds are getting a little bit lower. They've been highly utilized, and we wanted another source of funding. And then skipping back to the second page on this business marketing and business recruitment, we have I'm not sure if you heard about this last month. You probably did, but we're putting together a nice, I would call it a pretty high-end magazine to help promote Fulton County. And so we've been pulling that together. We've got a lot of businesses who've taken out ads in that publication, and I believe the objective is to have that published sometime toward the end of September. So we'll be sending that out quite broadly to a lot of different places to reach site selectors and get more attention for Fulton County. And then finally, in the business events, just if you weren't aware of them, in July we had a couple of significant events where we had the CRG AIM Workforce Program. AIM is Advanced Institute for Manufacturing, and they have a kind of a partnership going with Mohawk Community College to provide training and apprenticeships for students, and then ultimately they end up being new employees for those businesses. So that was pretty well attended and a pretty successful event, and we've got several businesses who expressed interest in doing more with that, so we're following up on that. And then we had a business symposium for the Gloversville downtown businesses on July 22nd. We had a really good turnout for that. Topics included, main topic was sources of financial assistance for businesses and how the CRG can help them obtain that support. We had Mayor DeSantis there speaking and a number of other speakers, and that seemed to be pretty well received as well. So those were the kind of the highlights for the month, but happy to try and answer any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Ken. Anyone have any questions of Ken?
Just wondering if they've heard any possible leads about the Tryon Technology Park. I think in the newsletter it did say you responded to one, but just always want an update as to the marketing of the technology park.
Yep. I don't know the specifics of that inquiry, but I just know from the report as well that there was an inquiry, but I don't know the status of it or the source of it.
Okay, fantastic.
I can see. I can follow up with Ron and see if I can get more information. I'll do that.
Sure, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
John Blackman is not with us today, so no report coming from the county. Moving on to old business, real quick. IDA website continue working on updating and improving our site. New pictures have been taken and added to the homepage. Added information on workforce training programs available in Fulton County, something that site selectors identified as an important piece of information for them to be able to see when they're looking at an economic development agency's website. Added information about each of the top employers in the county. Again, information that site selectors asked be available on our website, and updated information about us being a strategic location, which was one of the selling points that we have out there with respect to why move to Fulton County. So continuing work on that. Hopefully this will be wrapped up in a couple of months. Any questions or comments on that item? Moving on to Cushman Wakefield, as we talked at the last meeting, they have a party interested in several of the existing buildings that we will discuss further in executive session. And at the top of page 4 of your agenda, in order to sell one of these buildings, we need to have an appraisal done to establish market values. Received a proposal from Mark Grant and MAI from CBRE. His proposal calls for preparing restricted use reports, which is a fancy name for an appraisal. In the report will primarily utilize the sales approach for determining value. The proposal includes preparing these reports for these three buildings that a party is interested in. And the total cost is $1,500 per building, or for a total of $4,500. And so seeking authorization for the chairman to sign an engagement letter with CBRE to prepare these appraisals for these three buildings at Tryon at a total cost of $4,500. Any questions, discussion?
Jim, I just have a comment.
Yep.
I believe I saw on our website this morning that it's listing land at $20,000 per acre.
That's one of the things Betsy has to update. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the chairman to get
Thank you,
those
Joe.
appraisals.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second
Joe
that.
Gillis.
Mike Fitzgerald? Any further discussion or comments? All in favor of the motion? Okay, we'll go through the roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Motion has been carried. Okay, moving on the agenda to just a quick update on the Tryon Electric project. All of National Grid's work has been completed. We still have work remaining to remove the old electric system and the poles and the wires and some transformers. And that is work that's being scheduled as we speak, but the system has been cut over and we are out of the electric operating business after 4 years of doing so. So thanks to the county for following through with that commitment. Thanks to Scott and his staff and the planning department for overseeing and managing that project. Now we're just going to be waiting, as we talked about at our last meeting, for those invoices to start coming in for the electric at the sewer pump station. And we'll see what that when those start coming in.
Jim, this is Joe. Yeah, do we have any idea how much that's going to cost a month for the
No,
electricity?
We don't.
No?
That's we talked at the last meeting. We have no basis or track record for what that's going to be. And so we will incur that cost until such time as the county completes the creation of Fulton County Sewer District Number 4. And once that happens, the IDA will deed over the sewer line pump stations to the sewer district, and the sewer district will begin paying that invoice at that time.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Lands, item number D, the lands on the south side of the Tryon Technology Park. Just go to the end. For their update, at your last meeting, you authorized entering into a purchase contract with Dr. Verma and Dave Huckins to sell that 27-acre parcel of land. That purchase contract has yet to be signed by those two gentlemen. They have identified some additional information that they're seeking before executing that contract. I had a conference call last week with both Dave Huckins and Paul Kaloje, his attorney. We will discuss this a little further in executive session. But any questions or comments on that limited amount of information?
Yeah, Jim, this is Joe. My only comment is I see our old friend Paul Kaloje is resurfaced with us.
Yes. Yep. Paul is representing Dave Huckins, and we had a great conversation last week on that conference call.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. Moving on to the proposed Nexus Renewables solar project. I think we all have an understanding of the background of the project, and we have received an application from Nexus requesting 2 IDA benefits, 1 sales tax exemptions and 2 mortgage recording tax exemptions. Those 2 exemptions, the total benefits exceed the $100,000 threshold. As a result, we were required to have a public hearing. That public hearing was held on Tuesday, July 28th at 10 a.m. in the Town of Johnstown Town Hall. There was only 1 speaker, and that was Supervisor Jack Wilson, who made a comment in support of the project. The notes from that public hearing were attached to your agenda for review, and those have been sent to Kara to be a part of the record for this project. The structure of this project is, the IDA will continue to own the property. We'll lease it to Nexus Renewables. There is going to be 4 separate parcels of land. And Kara, will those be under 1 master lease, or will there be individual leases for the 4 individual parcels?
I've discussed that with their council, and they are trying to decide which. I think it'll be 4 separate leases, the same lease terms.
Okay. Okay. In terms of the project benefits that we've discussed, Nexus and the IDA will execute both lease and revenue sharing agreements. In return, the Nexus Renewables will be making annual lease payments to the IDA. The amounts were listed in Exhibit C, which is attached to your agenda. The annual lease payment will start out at $39,000 per year, and commencing in year 11 would begin to increase annually by a fixed percentage. There also will be a revenue sharing agreement where Nexus Renewables will be paying the IDA $1 per megawatt hour of solar energy that was generated. In year 1, that would estimate to be about $12,000, and that amount would decline slightly every year because the amount of solars generated each year by this project will decline due to the aging of the solar equipment. The project will also generate important property tax revenues for local taxing jurisdictions. The Broad-Alban Perth School District and Town of Johnstown are both seeking pilots with Nexus Renewables that will generate property tax revenues for those 2 entities. And Fulton County, because they opted out of 487, will be receiving county tax payments estimated in year one to be approximately $55,000. So this project will be generating revenues for both the IDA and local taxing jurisdictions. And as Keith is going to explain in a few minutes, there's a third benefit, and that is going to be benefits resulting from they generating credits that will be try to be allocated back to local governments, school districts, and businesses here in this county to help them subsidize their electricity costs. So those are the three benefits of this particular project. And I think it's important that everybody understand those benefits for this particular project. So for today, we have several actions that we need to take. First deals with SEEKR, the State Environmental Quality Review. At your last meeting, you took an action to classify this project as a type 1 action under SEEKR. You proposed yourself to serve as the lead agency and authorize sending out a letter to all involved agencies asking for them to consent to the IDA serving as lead agency. We sent those letters out. I asked everybody to respond by last Friday. We received written responses from both the Town of Johnstown Planning Board and New York State DEC, both consenting to having the IDA serve as lead agency. And so in the absence of anyone opposing, my recommendation is to act on a motion to designate the IDA to serve as the lead agency in conducting a coordinated SEEKR review on the proposed Nexus Renewables project. So that's the proposed motion. Is there any questions or discussion before we accept or move on that matter?
Yeah, Jim, this is Joe Gillis. What kind of pilots are the school district in the town of Johnstown getting?
The school district, to my understanding, and Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, has a formula. It's a formula-based pilot, Joe, where they seek a certain dollar amount per megawatt hour of solar generation. Keith, is it 6 or 8,000?
So it actually is. It's a combination of it's an education contribution, an upfront contribution to the school board, and then also 50% of it is going through this upfront contribution, and then 50% is going to be really a recurring payment to the school board. You are correct. It is close to $6,000. I believe it's actually closer to $5,000. And so half of that is going to be through a recurring payment, and then the other half is really an upfront payment.
Joe, those are between Nexus and the school district and town of Johnstown. We've not really been directly involved with that.
Yeah, I understand. Yep.
Any other questions?
And
I'm sorry.
the same for the town of Johnstown.
Yes. Now, I know, Keith, the town has sent you a letter asking for a pilot. Has there been any further discussions with the town?
We have not advanced the discussions as of yet. The tax portion that is applied to the town is much smaller, but we are definitely open to advancing those discussions. We just haven't gotten to that point yet with the town.
Okay.
And one other question about the fire tax, fire district taxes. How does that work?
Those have to be paid. Those are not part of any, fire district taxes are not part of any pilot.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
Any other questions? Would someone then be willing to make the motion to designate the IDA to serve as lead agency?
I'll make the motion.
Joe Gillis. Is there a second to that?
Joe Simeon, second.
Joe Simeon, second. We're going to take a roll. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, the next thing is we completed a part 2 of the environmental assessment form. This is a required step in the process in seeker, and the purpose of completing this form is to determine whether or not the proposed project may create a significant, one or more significant environmental impacts. That form was attached to your agenda. It's a 10-page form. And I can go through each one, but I think it's safe to say that the proposed project, for example, in item number 1, would it have any impacts on the land? Answer was yes, but all of the potential impacts were considered to be small or no impacts. There would be impacts on surface water. There are some wetlands on the site, as Keith's engineering, their engineering firm has identified, but the impacts on those are going to be small to minimal. And obviously they're going to attempt to avoid any impacts on wetlands. There's also going to be some potential impacts on plants and animals. Again, all of those potential impacts were classified as being small to minor. Also, potential impacts on aesthetic resources, we said yes, but again, those would be considered to be, again, small to minor. And lastly, there was going to be some proposed impacts on energy, obviously, because this is going to be generating some energy. And again, all of those impacts were considered to be small or none. Those were all of the items that were identified as having potential impacts that this project could have. And again, all of these were identified as having small to minor or no impacts on the environment, which leads us to the second question or item to act on here today is, as the lead agency, you have to issue what's called a determination of significance. And based upon all of the information that was in both the part 1 and the part 2 that we just reviewed, you have 2 options to consider. One is to issue what's called a positive determination. A positive determination means that based upon your review of all this information in the part 1 and part 2 forms, you feel that this project may create one or more significant environmental impacts, and as a result, you are going to declare a positive declaration and require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement. The second option is to issue a negative declaration. And what a negative declaration means is that you've reviewed all the information in part 1 and 2 and have determined that the project will not create any significant environmental impacts, and therefore you're going to issue a negative declaration, meaning a draft environmental impact statement does not have to be prepared, and the seeker review is therefore completed. Does everybody understand what those 2 options are? A positive declaration means continue the seeker process, prepare a draft environmental impact statement. Negative declaration means no major impacts, that therefore we can conclude the seeker process. So
I think based, Joe, I think based on what you sent us and just reviewed, the project is going to make some, effect to something, but they're minor. So I think we should go ahead with a negative declaration.
any other comments?
Hey, Jim, just looking at the EAF form, you checked yes on the aesthetic impacts.
And didn't check any of the boxes.
Yeah, just want to make sure that got done.
We'll do that. Okay, no other questions or comments. Would someone like to make a motion to issue a negative declaration as recommended by Mr. Semio?
Dave Demore.
Second, please.
Second by Joe Semio.
Mhm.
Any further discussions or comments? Take a roll call vote. Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Joe Semio,
Aye.
Dave Demore.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next, the Nexus has applied, as they said, for both sales and mortgage recording tax benefits. And Kara has prepared a resolution that was attached to your agenda. You're starting to get like me, it ended up being 8 pages in length. But this this resolution would authorize approving those financial benefits and authorize chairman to execute the documents that would be necessary that are typically associated with these types of projects. So, Kara, anything to add regarding the resolution?
I don't think so. The only item we added a couple items after the draft went around, the proposed draft went around. So we included a completion date of July 31st, 2022. And then we added in section 1 some additional reasons for the approval that included tax revenue to the local municipalities, the revenues to the IDA for ongoing expenses and additional and new projects. Other than that, it's straightforward, just like all your other approval resolutions.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments on the proposed action here? Hearing none, would someone make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented?
I'll make the
I'll
motion.
make that motion.
Mike Fitzgerald, makes a
And
motion.
I'll second it.
Joe Gillis is a second. Thank you, Joe. Any further discussion or comments? Let's take a roll call vote on the resolution to take action here on the Nexus Renewable Project. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semio,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Motion's been carried. Next item on the agenda is the lease and revenue sharing agreements. Again, the lease agreement would be for 25 years, with Nexus having the option to extend the lease for 3 additional 5-year terms. As a result, the total length of the lease could go to 40 years. There will be 3 kind of terms of this lease. The first is the option term, which is up to a year. I think Keith will advise that they're hoping it to be much shorter than that. But for that option term, they will pay the IDA a $1,000 fee, and that's going to be the time frame within which Nexus Renewable will complete its due diligence on their proposed project. They will, if they proceed, they will execute that option, and we move into the development term. That is the time period in which Nexus will construct their facility. And again, during that time period, Nexus would pay the IDA $1,000 for that term. And again, as you know, what that term will be, hopefully less than a year, because I think Nexus wants to be operational by this time next year or the fall of next year. And then the third term is the commercial operation date. That's the date when Nexus would actually begin generating solar energy and selling it to National Grid. And that date would be the starting date of the lease. Okay, so, and again, per Nexus Renewables, with their goal is to be operational in about a year. The lease would start at that date and then run either the 25 or 40 years from that date. Okay, and the first lease payment, that first annual payment would come on the date of that commercial operational date, and then it would become payable every year after that on that same date. The revenue sharing agreement would run coterminous with the lease agreement. And again, it would be paying the IDA an annual fee for amount of energy generated. Unlike the lease payment that would be payable at the beginning of each year, the revenue payment would come at the end of each year. So they'd operate for a year, determine how much energy they generated at the end of year one, and then we would receive that annual payment at that time. Keith, is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay. So both agreements we have received in draft. We're continuing to work on a miscellaneous language with those. But I think for today, what we're asking for is a motion by the board to authorize the chairman to execute both the lease and revenue sharing agreements once those have been, the final language has been signed off by both Kara and myself. So whenever that occurs, we would like to be able to sign those as well as the documents that, associated with the granting of the financial benefits. So any questions on these?
Yeah, Jim, I have a question. Is the development term that we have, do we have a set amount of that? So what I'm asking you, if they start the project and then they can't get the funding and then it languishes for 5 years with no development, we only get $1,000, or do we have a time period that the development ends?
Keith, can you respond to that?
Yeah, in I believe in the latest draft, there is a set period that we've put in for the development term. I can't recall if it's it might be 1 year plus an option for an extra year, but that is correct. There is a certain window for the development.
Yeah. That was my only concern.
Yep. Thank you, Joe. Any other questions?
Well, one other question. Just like President Reagan used to say, trust but verify. How do we know how much electricity is generated? I mean, do we get will we get a report so at the end of the year we'll be able to match numbers?
Yes. So our project will have a revenue grade meter installed on it. We will, in addition to providing you with the annual lump sum payment, we will provide you with the corresponding meters data for your purposes as well.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you, Joe. Anything else? All right, would someone make a motion to authorize the chairman to execute these documents?
I'll make them.
All right, we'll go Joe Gillis and Joe Semyon as the motion and second. Take a roll call vote. Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Mike stepped away for a minute.
Okay. Todd Rulison.
Aye.
Joe Semyon.
Aye.
Dave Demore.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Last item regarding this issue is an easement. As we've discussed, the 29-acre parcel that Nexus is looking to lease from the IDA is actually landlocked and does not have direct access onto a public road. What we're proposing is to grant Nexus a 20-foot wide easement that would be on IDA land and run parallel to the eastern boundary of the Vireo Health property. Nexus is also looking at other options for getting access to that property, which they may or may not choose to utilize. If they choose to utilize another option, then we would not execute this, this easement. But if all our other options fail, they would then come back and look to utilize this 20-foot easement as their access point to their property. So asking today to approve granting an easement with the understanding that we're not right now 100% sure they're going to use it. If they don't, then this would just it would go away. Okay, does everyone understand the issue at hand? Very good. Any questions?
Jim, does the easement have any impact on Vireo Health at all in their operation?
No. On their current operations, no. No. You know, they had some time ago, Todd, as we've talked, expressed a potential interest in that adjoining lot. That adjoining lot is still available, you know, and but we've not heard anything from them in some time about that potential interest.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, this easement is for the wires to be connected to the solar panels? Is that what this is for, or is this for a road?
Both, probably both, Joe.
Uh-huh. Are the wires going to be above ground or underground?
Everything within the Tryon Technology Park will be underground.
Okay.
That's been stipulated to and agreed to by Nexus. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, would someone make a motion then to approve granting this 20-foot easement from County Road 117 along the eastern boundary of Vireo Health's property to the 29-acre parcel that Nexus will be leasing from the IDA?
So moved.
I'll make the motion, Jim.
Todd makes the motion, Joe Gillis makes the second. Let's do a roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semio,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald, Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Very good. Motion has been approved. Okay, the last item for, I'm sorry,
Joe Semyon, I see that John Blackman has joined us.
John Blackman has. John, do you have a, let's go back, do you have a report to offer from the county?
Well, sorry that I'm late. I tuned in about 15 minutes after the hour. We had our first in-person session yesterday. It was like walking into third grade with all the desks lined up in rows. We had 23 resolutions, only 2 of which might be of interest to you. One, we passed a resolution for urging the enactment and implementation of the Johnstown Hall State Historic Site Master Plan. If the state puts money into that and they start on that project in the next year or 2, it could bring in a lot of tourists over the coming years. The other one was that the FMCC 2021 budget was presented and passed. They are decreasing the budget by 6.7%. The total budget, they didn't ask for any more money from the county. They're not sure how many less students they will have this next year, but they're taking that into consideration. So the budget for FMCC is $16.8 million. And again, no increase for Fulton County. So that's it.
Great, any questions of John? Very good. So the last item for discussion here today is the one other benefit for the Nexus Renewables project, and that is it being a community solar project. I asked Keith to give the IDA board members a brief discussion about what this all means. And so Keith, would you give us a brief discussion on what this, how this project is going to potentially impact the local businesses and governments here?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. I have prepared a few slides. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. I hope I can. I'll try my best here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, so as Jim had mentioned, our project is a community solar, designated as a community solar project. Just a quick recap on what Jim had really highlighted. It's a 6.9 megawatt project that we're proposing just outside the town of Johnstown at Technology Park. The parcel of land, just as a recap, it's otherwise unsuitable for commercial development. Our project will be upgrading some of the local distribution infrastructure as part of the project cost that we're bearing. And then more importantly, really what I wanted to highlight, and as Jim had mentioned, is that, you know, it generates three sources of revenues. The first revenue being through a lease. That lease is the way those revenues are allocated or communicated to Fulton IDA is through fixed payment plus a variable payment, which is $1 per megawatt hour. And then separately, the project generates annual tax revenues. And so those tax revenues through Fulton County and then also through the town of Johnstown, those are through your traditional means. With the local school district, we're in the late stages of executing a pilot agreement with them, which will, as I mentioned, which will result in a sizable upfront payment at about $180,000 plus a recurring payment that's about $25,000 towards the school district. And then lastly, this is the part I wanted to highlight, is that it generates $130,000 in annual cost savings for local community members. It's through NYSERDA's community solar program, which is what I'm going to touch on over the next few slides. I didn't prepare a lot of slides, so it won't be that long. But you know, from a high level, the way the NYSERDA community solar program works is our project generates electricity. That 100% of that electricity is exported to National Grid. In return, National Grid provides us with community credits. We take those credits and we assign those to subscribers. And that's generally, from a high level, how the program works. We assign those credits to subscribers, and really those credits on a dollar per dollar basis can be applied against your bill. Generally, when we assign those to our subscribers, we assign them at a discount to par value. And what that means is that the subscribers effectively realize a cost savings through that. Generally, when we are able to assign those credits to subscribers, we can assign them to really anybody that's serviced by National Grid that is located within the same NYSO zone, which is really most of upstate New York. And at a minimum, the project must have 10 subscribers. And the only other criteria that we're subject to is that no more than 40% of our generation can be allocated to what the utility deems to be large use consumers. That's any consumer that has 25 kilowatts or greater. So the real key item is that we are allocating these credits to subscribers, and it results in a cost savings that's about $130,000 per year. When we break down that the amount of credits that we're getting, it's about $1.3 million per year. So up to $500,000 of that can be allocated towards large use consumers. This would be large manufacturing facilities. Even if you have I think you mentioned a wastewater treatment plant, those are generally high use energy consumers that we can allocate these credits towards. Separately, there's about $800,000 that we would need to allocate to small use consumers. Because we're not obligated to find customers in a small area, we do have that option of allocating to anybody within upstate New York. The preference would be to keep those benefits within Fulton County. And what we're really proposing is really to work with Fulton IDA to really identify a list of businesses that may be able to take advantage of this cost savings opportunity. It is generally around 10% cost reduction in their bill. Generally, the agreement that we would need to enter into, it's a long-term agreement where the business would commit to subscribing to these credits just to match our contract term with National Grid. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, Keith, this is Dave Demore.
Yeah.
Quick, give us an understanding on how these businesses, both large and small, would be collected. You're asking for the IDA to provide a list, but is there like a public announcement, like almost a public bidding? I can imagine there would be a number of businesses that would be interested in such a benefit. Or is it just, do we presume to give you a list of who we think would benefit and go from there? I'm just kind of trying to understand, how proactive and public all of this should be. I would imagine that would be the preference, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think, to keep it open, an announcement would be the most preferable rate. Our traditional means is usually to outsource this to, we have a specialist that deals with these types of subscriptions, but, anything that we can do locally, I think is probably preferable. And I mean, that's probably a question I'd kind of throw back at yourselves is, is the preference to have an announcement, or do you have any, at least, businesses in mind that you think that might, have an interest in this? One of the key areas is, for us at least, is to make sure that, that 40% that's tied to the large use businesses is secured before we start marketing to the smaller businesses.
Yeah, I don't know that we've got an answer because we haven't really discussed it. So I would be interested to hear what my fellow board members think about this. The other related question is, are there restrictions on certain classifications of businesses? So for instance, a school district is a business entity, but does that qualify for these types of benefits? And would a municipality qualify for these types of benefits?
Yes, and so my understanding is that as long as you have a separate utility account number, it's sufficient. It's just the real classification is on if it's large use or small use.
Okay, thank you.
The goal today was simply to introduce this concept to the IDA board, not to come up with final decisions, because, again, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, decisions on who what entities would be identified for using this benefit won't need to be resolved for a while yet, because you won't know the exact amount of credits you'll be receiving until after the first year of operation.
That's correct, and normally it's a few months in advance of hitting commercial operation is when we'll start this. Yeah.
So if we're going to look to start, let's just say, pick a date of September 1 of 2021. It would mean that we're not needing to have these entities identified until sometime in mid-2022.
Ideally, we would like to have some subscription agreements at least secured in advance of hitting commercial operation. So really starting that legwork, I'd say early 2021. That would be kind of our preference.
Okay.
Got a quick question. So it sounds to me that these credits need to be secured by other companies. My question, which I probably think is a no, say you can't store those credits up for future companies, because my thought is that if we say we have the technology park and the CRG or us might land a company or be working with a company and say, hey, by the way, you can possibly get credits, which might be a nice incentive for them to come also. But can they be held for future use, or they've got to be all spoken for?
Yeah, there is a small window that it could carry over, but it's not nothing beyond a year.
Okay.
So they have to be used accordingly.
Okay, no, it'd be nice if we could.
So, Joe, I think it's a great point. What we could start is say, starting today, we could start marketing, to out there that if you come here by September, set up operation by September 1 of next year,
Yes,
you'd have this benefit available.
I think that'd be a good,
Yeah.
a good thing to do.
All right. Any other questions of Keith? Great. Keith, appreciate your time this morning. We will continue discussions about this as we move forward. And look forward to getting these subscription agreements eventually put together and see these benefits allocated to folks here in the community. So thanks. And
yeah, thanks.
we will stay in touch.
Thanks a lot, Jim, and thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
All righty, folks, back to the agenda. We have no other business or new business to conduct. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property and further as expressed on the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Jim.
Dave Demore, is there a second to that motion?
Joe Semyon.
Joe Semyon? All in favor? I can't do that. Sorry. Roll call vote. Dave Demore?
Aye.
Joe Semyon?
Yes, aye.
Todd Rulison?
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Joe Gillis.
Aye,
Ready? We are in executive session.
we're good.
Motion to go out of executive.
So moved.
Dave Demore, is there a second to that?
Joe Gillis?
Joe Gillis, roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Yay.
Joe Semyon,
Hey,
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Fitzgerald, Joe Gillis.
Aye,
We're in open session. We need a motion to modify the motion to retain CBRE to conduct 4 separate appraisals at a total cost of $6,000 versus 3, as previously discussed.
make that motion, Joe Semyon.
Joe Semyon, second to that.
Second.
Gillis?
Todd
Nope.
Rulison, second. Any further discussion?
Jimmy, do you want to give yourself some cushion on the price in case, they
Nope.
say there's,
That's
Okay.
that's the number.
okay.
Roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Dave Demore, seconded by
Aye, Joe.
Joe Semyon. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Joe Semyon. Did I say that already?
No, but
Mike
aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
All right, the meeting is closed at 10:20 a.m. I will keep everybody advised as to